Have you ever wondered how the smartphone in your pocket began? Let's travel back to the 1870s. Back then, sending a message was painfully slow. If you wanted to talk to someone far away, you had to write a letter. That letter would travel by horse, train, or ship. Sometimes people waited days or even weeks for a reply. One man believed there had to be a better way. His name was Alexander Graham Bell. Bell was fascinated by sound from a young age. His father studied speech, and his mother struggled with hearing loss. Because of this, Bell spent years learning how voices and sounds worked. At that time, the telegraph already existed. The telegraph could send messages through wires using Morse code, dots and dashes. It was revolutionary, but there was a problem. People couldn't actually hear each other's voices. Bell began asking a simple question. What if voices could travel through wires too? This idea seemed impossible, but Bell knew something important. Whenever we speak, our voices create vibrations in the air. Those vibrations travel as sound waves. Bell wondered if he could somehow turn those sound waves into electrical signals. So he started experimenting. Inside his workshop, Bell worked with batteries, copper wire, magnets, and thin metal sheets. After many failed attempts, he designed an early telephone. The device contained a thin metal diaphragm. A diaphragm is simply a thin piece of metal that can vibrate. Behind the diaphragm sat a magnet wrapped with copper wire. When Bell spoke into the telephone, his voice hit the diaphragm. The diaphragm vibrated exactly like the sound waves from his voice. As the diaphragm moved near the magnet, it changed the magnetic field around the copper wire. This created tiny electrical signals. Those electrical signals traveled through a wire to another telephone. At the other end, another diaphragm received the electrical signals. It vibrated in the exact same pattern as the original voice. The sound was recreated. For the first time in history, a human voice had traveled through a wire. Then came the famous moment. On March 10, 1876, Bell accidentally spilled battery acid during an experiment. He quickly spoke into his telephone. "Mr. Watson, come here, I want to see you." His assistant, Thomas Watson, heard the words clearly from another room. It was the first successful telephone call in history. The impossible became real. Soon, telephone lines began spreading across towns and cities. People could now speak instantly across long distances. Telephone operators connected calls by plugging wires into giant switchboards. As more people bought telephones, the world became more connected than ever before. In the early 1900s, rotary phones appeared. Instead of asking an operator to place a call, people could dial numbers themselves. Communication became easier. Decades later, push-button phones replaced rotary phones. Calls became even faster. Then, engineers began dreaming of something extraordinary. What if telephones didn't need wires at all? In 1973, Motorola engineer Martin Cooper made the first handheld mobile phone call. The phone was enormous. It weighed over a kilogram and looked like a brick. Its battery lasted only about 30 minutes, but it proved that mobile communication was possible. This was the beginning of mobile phones. In the early 1980s came 1G networks. These early mobile networks carried analog voice calls. Call quality wasn't great, but people loved the freedom. In the 1990s came 2G. Phones became digital. Suddenly, people could send text messages. SMS messaging became incredibly popular. Then came 3G in the early 2000s. For the first time, phones could access the internet at useful speeds. People could browse websites, send emails, and download media. Everything changed again in 2007. The smartphone era began. Touchscreens replaced physical keyboards. Phones became small computers. People could browse the web, watch videos, take photos, and use apps. Soon, 4G networks arrived. Internet speeds became fast enough for video streaming, social media, and online gaming. Then came 5G. Downloads became incredibly fast. Video calls became smoother. Artificial intelligence features began appearing directly. Yet, the basic idea remains the same. A human voice is converted into signals, sent across a network, and reconstructed for another person to hear. From a vibrating metal diaphragm in a small workshop to powerful smartphones connecting billions of people around the world, it all started with one question from Alexander Graham Bell. What if a voice could travel through a wire? And that simple idea changed the world forever.